Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm here with my third installment of my high school series. So basically I'm just going to talk about my junior year in high school. If you didn't catch the rest of my series, which so far has my freshman year and my sophomore year, then I'll link those videos below.
So I want to put this disclaimer in the beginning of my advice videos, basically saying that don't take my advice as concrete. Like, this is what I did with my given situation and circumstances. So sometimes with your unique circumstances, the best path might not be what I chose to do. So if you have any specific questions or comments, then leave them down below and I'll be happy to answer those questions and help you out with your situation.
So without further ado, let's get into it. So like my other videos, I'm going to start with my classes. So I took 6 in total. I took 5 AP classes and 1 non-AP class. So the one non-AP class I took was string orchestra, and I'll talk about that one last. And then my 5 AP classes, I'll start with those. I had AP Physics B, AP English Language and Composition, AP Calculus BC, AP Chinese, and AP US History. So I'm going to start with AP Physics B. So that was my science class of my junior year, and it actually ended up being my last science class of high school. So in comparison to AP Biology and AP Chemistry, AP Physics definitely had more math. So basically you had to calculate. There were more like word problems.
I don't even remember what it was for, but I remembered this. And you would have to somehow turn it in certain directions to figure out what direction the current was going or something like that. I don't really remember. You can tell that after all my AP science classes, I just kind of forget everything because I was never the best at science.
Personally, we had a teacher at my school who everyone loved because he was this like adorable old like grandpa type teacher who was like really sweet, and he was a pretty good teacher. The only thing was that he made the tests easier by giving practice questions that pretty much just gave away the test. So if you just memorized how to do those practice questions, you could do pretty well on tests. But you can't really do that for the AP test. I mean, obviously you can take practice tests, but the exact questions on those practice tests aren't going to be on the AP test. So in that way, we weren't as prepared for the AP test.
AP Physics definitely was probably one of the hardest tests I took. I know that Physics C is way worse, but Physics B was already bad enough for me for the test, the AP test at least. Like, I remember for the multiple choice, I was like, I'm pretty sure I just guessed on half of them, maybe a third of them. I don't even know if that was bad. And the FRQs were marginally better, but it was not fun. I somehow managed to score decently on the test. Magically, I passed.
AP Physics. Woo-hoo. Moving on to AP English Language and Composition. So that was the first AP English class that I took in high school. So previous to that, I just did honors English for freshman and sophomore year. So once again, English never came that easily to me, so Lang was a little tough in the beginning, but something that my teacher did that was pretty helpful was that throughout the year she had FRQ practice tests that we did maybe like every month. So in the beginning, we all pretty much just failed because, I mean, we had no idea what we were doing. I got like 3s or 4s, and I think the high score is a 9. And then throughout the year, as we, learned about more literary devices and learned more about how to analyze them, you start to build skills. And near the end, I was scoring like 7 or 8s or something like that. So that was really helpful. And then it wasn't until near the end of the year we did practice multiple choice questions. And those are kind of hard because I had trouble managing my time and getting through all the questions. So definitely keep that in mind that AP Lang, it's a really long test of a lot of, analyzing and writing. And so you definitely want to practice to make sure you're prepared for test day.
Read, the different excerpts for past FRQs and see how high scoring FRQs, how they wrote it, how they responded to the prompts, so you can have an idea of what the AP tests or the AP graders are looking for. Yeah, that was AP Lang. It's definitely interesting. I struggled in the beginning, but it was like a process of learning of how to actually English well.
So moving on to AP Calculus BC. So I took AP Calculus 80 the year before in sophomore year. And so I want to say that it's definitely ideal if you take AB and BC consecutively, because in BC, the first part of the year, typically you review AB material. So that makes the first part of your year in that class relatively easy because you're just relearning what you learned in the previous year in Calculus AB, because in the BC test they do test some AB material as well. So they have a sub-score, so they have a Calc AB sub-score and then a Calc BC sub-score. And so that's how BC works. The actual material, once you get into the newer material like series and other BC theorems and stuff, it is harder than AB, so just be warned if you're not the best at math, and definitely make sure you do your practice questions, seek out your teacher for help, seek out your friends for help.
Make sure that you really pay attention, especially as you go along, to make sure that you understand things as the year progresses, because for math, a lot of the things is that you have a basis level that you then build upon. So if you're lacking that foundational knowledge and you keep trying to build on more complicated theories and techniques, then it's just harder to keep up. I personally like math, hashtag nerd.
But yeah, I like calculus, so it wasn't too bad for me at least. Yeah, that was my experience with calculus BC. And then moving on to AP Chinese. So AP languages are definitely considered one of the hardest tests amongst all the AP tests, along with like AP sciences, just because you just honestly, you can practice and you can have your material down of what you learned throughout the year, but then they could just throw a curveball, and not only do they test you on the language itself, you also are tested on the culture that comes along with that language. So I learned about culture in China, so that definitely makes it more comprehensive but also more difficult.
Like if you're a non-native speaker and you manage to score, if you manage to pass for one, and if you manage to get 4 or 5, you pretty much, that's like solid. That's really impressive. Usually native speakers, like for me, I took AP Chinese and I grew up in a Chinese household, so I had a leg up, but it was still difficult to score well on the test. I remember going out of that test being like, what just happened? Like, did I even pass? I'm not really sure. That was a lot harder than I expected, and honestly, I don't really know how non-native speakers do it, especially for Chinese, because Chinese is really difficult. I
just know that you're forewarned if you're taking it, that it is a challenge definitely to do well on the test, but if you do well, then it's pretty impressive, so there's that. Last but not least, AP US History. So finally, I started to take social study classes that I actually enjoyed. It's still a lot of memorization, and as someone who's not the best person with memorizing dates and names, it was a bit of a struggle at times, but I still liked that it was more concentrated on one country.
It was an enjoyable class. I mean, sometimes I would fall asleep during lectures because it's a lot of like just hard, cold facts sometimes. But I mean, compared to world history and AP Hugs, I liked it a lot better.
Some advice as to the tests: definitely take practice FRQs and practice multiple choice questions just so you can get familiar in how the AP graders test the essays, what they look for, basically, you know, the style of writing that they prefer on these FRQs. And for the multiple choice question, just also taking a lot of practice tests just helps you see what questions typically show up in MCs, and through that you can be prepared and know the answers pretty quickly. Yeah, that was AP US History. So those were my AP tests. Moving on to my one and only non-AP class of that year, and that was string orchestra. So I took string orchestra all 4 years of high school, so this is nothing new.
Like by junior year, I kind of started getting sick of it. Like, started getting kind of boring. But you know, it was still fine, I guess.
One thing that I might not have mentioned in my previous videos is that I also did a chamber orchestra that was like more select, that you had to audition for within my school district, and from that I was able to build upon like my basic orchestra class and also have more experience outside of that. So just look into what other outside opportunities there are to showcase your work,
so that, you know, you can just build upon your experience outside of just your class. Just because, I mean, like taking an orchestra class or pottery class or photography class, besides it being, you know, your nice, easy, fun class, like a nice elective to take, you can also still use as an opportunity to show your skills to colleges, to really just build on a hobby that you've always wanted to learn.
So that's just what I did with orchestra. So yeah, those were my 6 classes my junior year, and as for extracurricular activities, I did swimming. Once again, I did swimming all 4 years, so it's nothing new. So that year I was able to qualify for state in 2 events. So one was an individual event. Woo, my first and only individual event at state. That was really exciting. I never in like any world thought I would be able to qualify for state in an individual event, because it's either you get second place and or you actually have a qualifying time. So I wasn't fast enough to have a qualifying time, but I did end up getting second in my individual event. So that was exciting.
Like at state itself, I didn't do as well because I was like 7 seconds behind the second to last girl, so that was interesting. But yeah, I didn't get the best time. Yeah, junior year well, it's interesting for swimming. Like time wise, I didn't really have any huge improvements, which was kind of sad, but you know, it was still fun.
Moving on to Red Cross. So that's another thing that I did for extracurriculars. I was actually secretary of my Red Cross club in my junior year, so it was just basically a lot of writing emails, writing up meeting minutes and officer meeting minutes. So yeah, nothing super exciting, but I did end up running for president and getting the position at the end of junior year. And I also, if you watched my sophomore year video, you know that I applied to the youth council, which I also explained what the whole youth council is in that video. But I applied for that my sophomore year, didn't get in, but for my junior year, I just decided to apply again. Like, why not? It'd be for my senior year, and it'd be just a nice way to just, meet more people, get more involved in the Red Cross. So I did that, and I ended up getting in. So that was really exciting. That was the end of junior year, just knowing that I'll be president and in the youth council for my senior year. I'll be talking more about my experience as president and in the youth council my senior year video. One huge thing that's a part of your junior year is the SATs. So I can do an entire video on like what I did to prepare for the SATs. If you guys want me to, you can request it down below or give this video some thumbs up if you want a video on that. And really, if anything, junior year is like probably even more important in like academics wise than senior year. Senior year is more of like actually applying to the schools and applying to scholarships, but junior year, it's like the last thing that will be on your transcript when you apply to colleges. They might have your senior year's first semester classes on your transcript as well, but really they do concentrate on your junior year, see how well you did. It's like pretty important to do well in your junior year, as well as studying for the SATs. There are a lot of different resources that you can use to study for your SATs. For me, I did, the whole traditional study guide route, took all the practice tests, went through the grammar rules, math questions, wrote practice essays and such.
So I also took an SAT class over the summer. I think I took one the summer before junior year, so that was fun. Like a month of my summer, I was, at an SAT class for a few hours every day, so it was not the most enjoyable thing, but I mean, it was just something to really, get an outside resource to be tutored, and just forcing you to practice during those hours in class, and then also having homework outside of class to do. I took the SATs twice, and I'm pretty sure my first time was in my junior year. I don't exactly remember like what test month it was in, but I got above 2,000. I do remember that. So it was good. Like, it was a decent score, but it wasn't something to get like super excited about and be like, okay, I can be done with the SATs forever. Like, typically people, if you really want to do well, you take it, twice.
So yeah, that was standardized testing. Woo, that's like literally your life in junior year. Another thing, SAT subject tests. I took I think a couple of them in my junior year. I also might have taken one in my senior year. I'm not entirely sure. Basically, just you have to look ahead, look at the colleges that you're thinking of applying to in your senior year, so that in your junior year you can know what their requirements are. So that was my junior year. If you guys want more specific, experiences, more specific questions, I'm pretty sure I didn't cover like absolutely everything, but leave them down in the comments below and any other requests. So hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it was helpful for you. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!
really not a dancer right now, so sorry if this is uncomfortable.